In this video, we'll be looking at two batches of the same type of tea from the same farm. This is Wuyi Oolong, and the difference being two different harvests. The tea on my left is spring 2020, and on my right is winter 2020. And the spring batch has been heavily roasted, and the winter batch was left unroasted. So two batches of Wuyi Oolong, processed differently, namely roasting and non-roasting. Let's check it out. So batch number 62 of the ecochateas club, on my right here is an unroasted Wuyi Oolong from Songboling, Nantou County, machine harvested, and then the stems were removed by hand, as they are when they are being prepared for competition. So our friend, who is a big competition player, gave this batch of tea to the same people who prepare his very high grade Dongding Oolong for the world's largest oolong tea competition in Lugu. He gave this batch to them to glean and make pretty, and similar to our previous month's batch, December 2020 was the heavy roast version of the same tea from the same farm. The heavy roast was from spring 2020 harvest, and the unroasted one that we are sharing this month is the winter 2020 harvest. So we thought it would just be fun to share 2 months in a row the same type of tea, but processed very differently, namely non-roasting and roasting. So the unroasted version is similar to a high mountain oolong, lightly oxidized, and just put in the oven at low temperature for long enough to remove all the moisture and freshen up the leaves a bit and keep them fresh by having little or no moisture content in them. So I'm going to start with the unroasted one because I know that the heavy roast is going to be overpowering in comparison. I did a little variation of brewing. For the heavy roast, I put 7 grams of tea leaves in 150 milliliters, and the unroasted, I put 8 grams in the same cup, and brewed them for 90 seconds twice. So the one closest to me is the first brew, and the one further away is the second brew. So I can smell both of them. It's a little bit confusing to my senses. The unroasted has an incredibly, total chills smelling this, incredibly floral, and it's a lot more than floral. It's the easiest word to say is herbal. There's just so much coming off the brewed leaves. It's extremely aromatic, and Wuyi is known for that. It's really beyond even the high elevation, high mountain teas cannot compare in the headiness of this. It's really satisfying. It's also undescribable for me. I'm not a botanist by any means. I don't really know my flowers, but it's got floral. I can guarantee that. And the brewed tea is a nice, I'm trying to get what I kind of perceive by smelling it. It's a significant level of oxidation. You will see a reddening of the leaves. So they're a little bit more than, well, let's just go for it. And see, it's really amazing. Wow. So the leaves, you can see visible reddening. So they were allowed to oxidize more than your standard high mountain oolong, and bring a more full flavored character out and take out that green grassiness. But it's amazing that the tea is as aromatic as it is, even with a significant but still minimal level of oxidation. Okay, so the heavy roast. As you know, as Tea Club members received this last month, they're probably familiar with this tea by now. It's got roast. But it's such a balanced and satisfying roast. It's coffee, cocoa, campfire, tobacco, leather. I mean, your brain can just really get creative in trying to sweet molasses, kind of that, yeah. But the leaves are still supple. And as we related last month, these leaves have undergone about 100 hours of painstaking roasting, starting with the conventional tea oven and then going on to the infrared tea roasting oven that we talked about last month. So I'm going to start with the unroasted. This first brew has cooled significantly. I like it that way. I like to be able to really get the full flavor from the tea after the temperature drops and the volatile oils have settled by not evaporating. It's delicate. It's complex. The word refined comes to mind. I'm not sure why, but it's just, there's this kind of even palate that is sweet and floral and vegetal, but delicate. It's still very light and subtle. I'm going to go straight to the second brew. I'm getting a sense that the second brew will be significantly more substantial. Thicker water. Just more of everything and more back of the throat kind of action going on now. I don't know, Wuyi has something that no other tea that I'm familiar with has in this form particularly. It's just the flavor and aromatic profile stand on their own and make it special. So I think we've been following this plot of tea since it was planted, and we've shared a couple of batches years ago. And it's nice to come back 4 years after the previous batch that we shared and see the farm that has matured. The plants have matured. They're in their prime now, really. And they're doing well as an organically farmed plot of tea. The tea leaves are tested once a year, either spring or winter, and they consistently have been ND results, meaning that there's no pesticide residue, trace chemicals detected at all, zero. So it's the same thing as an organic tea, it just doesn't have the certification by an organic certification company. If you like floral, I'm sure some people will be hard put to not think that this has an added flower, blend. It doesn't. This is the true nature of this tea, and it's very satisfying if you're into the floral characters that can come from unroasted oolong teas. Okay, so just for fun, as we all know, we have tasted this last month, but side by side, we thought it would be interesting. I don't have high hopes of detecting any similarity in the flavor profiles, but just to see how different the same tea can be as a result of processing. It's amazing the difference between the aromatic profile coming off the leaves. I just spewed out all those adjectives like caramel, molasses, smoky leather, cocoa, and coffee. It doesn't really taste like, it tastes like a little bit like a lightly brewed coffee, the way they do in their gourmet or professionally judging coffee. Brewing it light because it has a very distinct fruitiness to it. It's amazing that these leaves have undergone so much roasting and it's light and fruity, a slight citrus with this base of roastedness. So it's just like multi-leveled, literally. It's not a spectrum. It really feels like separate levels of flavor going on here. Let's go to the second brew. Berry. It's like blackberry, maybe cooked blackberries. That tart kind of factor with a balanced sweetness, and then smokiness. I mean, I love that factor. I love when a tea has this rich, caramelly, smoky aspect to its flavor profile. It's so satisfying to me. So it looks like what happens is with more oxidation and extensive roasting, that intense, or at least bold, flowery bouquet turns into a fruity, balanced, and of course roasted character, given all the time it spent in the oven. So there we have it. 2 consecutive batches of the Ecochateas Club. December 2020 was the heavy roast Wuyi Oolong, and January 2021 is the unroasted version from the same farm. Prepared for competition. Our friend didn't tell us this until afterwards, but we tasted this tea after we tasted it before it was destemmed, and we looked at it and we're like, oh, there's just too many stems in here. And I took a photo and sent it to him and said, yeah, it tastes good, but there's just the appearance is just a bit too much. And he called me right back. He's like, just wait. I got those tea leaves gleaned, and they're destemmed, and they're competition grade now. And you just wait until you see it. And he talked about it. He said, I'm thinking of entering this into the National Organic Tea Competition. And I asked him later if he did after we picked up our batch, and he's like, I didn't have time because I gave you the amount that I had already destemmed, and the competition, the entry was right after that. So basically we got the tea that he was going to enter into competition. It was no big deal for him really, because he plays in literally almost all the competitions that happen here. It's an extremely busy time of year for him. He wasn't really fussed about not entering this year, and he might just vacuum seal it and enter it into the following competition. But we felt privileged, and without a word, he didn't even say, he didn't say anything. So our connections have really treated us well throughout the years, and now I even feel like treat us with a level of respect, and I'm not sure if it's preference, but at least they're happy to give us what they have, even if it means not doing other things with their painstakingly prepared batches of tea. January 2021, batch 62, competition grade Wuyi Oolong. Check it out. It's going to be a different flavor than you've experienced before if you're limiting it to the spectrum of Taiwanese oolongs. Thanks for being with us, and if you haven't already, please click that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share this video with anyone that you think might be interested in hearing about this kind of stuff. We'll see you next month.